So, it's finally here. Elden Ring has finally come out, the most anticipated game in a long time. I've put about 10 hours into it myself. Just want to give a quick little video, my thoughts on it. Is it worth buying? What can you expect from it? Yada yada yada. So first of all, if you already know like the Dark Souls and Souls-like genre of games, you don't need to watch this video. You're going to buy Elden Ring, you're going to love it. It is absolutely phenomenal. And it is sincerely by far the best in the sort of Souls genre of games in my opinion. But again, like I say, if you're into Dark Souls, you know that already. Why are you here? Go buy the game. Now, for again people that are more like me, that are more say casual gamers, and you know what Elden Ring and the Darks, just the Souls genre game is like. It is hard. It is punishment. Like if you've never played, if for some reason you've been living under a rock and you don't know what this genre of game is like or what it entails, it is basically the video game equivalent of like the bully in school just holding you at arm's length and you're swinging your arms and you can't quite hit him, and then every now and again you'll catch him in the ribs, it won't hurt him, and you'll piss him off and he'll kick you in the face and stomp you into the fucking ground. That's what this game does. It is horrifically difficult compared to every other game, which is the appeal that masochists get from it. Like in the Dark Souls games, in this background clip you can see this is the very first area of the game, and like most other Dark Souls games you come across a big boss that will kill you. Now in theory it is totally beatable, and if you beat this boss you get a cool little, I believe, like an axe and a shield and a well done. But it's meant to kill you, you will die here, it's part of the story, don't worry about it. It ends up finishing you off, and it's just sort of how they get you into the story of it. But this is what every other boss in the game will do to you. Like, it is ridiculous how insane some of the bosses and some of even the normal enemies in like the first dungeon you go to, there's some little gargoyles and they just fucking jump about the place like little crack addicts and then slash you 15 times, make you bleed, cling to fucking walls and just act like they want to be fucking Batman. It is infuriating, but it's not infuriating to the point of you don't want to play the game. Elden Ring somehow finds this very sort of nice balance of being brutally punishing and so harsh and challenging and difficult, yet you always feel like you're so close to being able to do it, which is the really cool thing. It never feels like it's what you're trying to do is impossible. It does a really good job of just teasing you, and you make every time you fight a boss or get to a new area and you'll die, and next time you fight it you get that little bit closer and you learn its attack a bit more, or you get used to the parrying system. So it's not necessarily infuriating to the point of you'll want a refund and uninstall the game. Now the one thing anyone that has played Dark Souls before will take as a bit of a surprise is the parrying system. So in old Dark Souls, like most games, you get a shield, you time a parry and you can counter attack, do some good damage. It's in a lot of games. The timing on Elden Ring compared to the other Dark Souls like games is so fine. You have to have it down. I can't get the hang of it in this game. I can't parry on this game. And you can actually, what the game doesn't tell you is I picked the samurai, as you can see in the clip in the background. This is a samurai class. You can two-wield your katana. So if you don't have your shield equipped in your left hand, I think if you hold down, I'm using a PS4 controller, triangle and R1 for your light attack, you will dual wield your katana, which increases the amount of damage you do in return for slower attacks. However, you can still block, and I still believe you can guard break, which is like the parry. I think it's called guard break with it, so it is still useful. But if you're coming from Dark Souls, I've got the parrying down, and you're going to Elden Ring, it will take some getting used to whether you're good at it or not. Now again, if you're into Dark Souls games, you'll get the hang of it fairly quickly. I can't do it. I'm not really good. The other Dark Souls games, I've completed them, but I don't do any of the research into the best classes. I never know what skills to put things into to optimise things. I just brute force my way through the games like a fucking idiot, like most of you will have to do. So I can't give an expert opinion on these games because I'm not an expert by any means. I'm just a fucking idiot who will repeatedly smash his face into a brick wall until a tiny bit of cement comes off and he's made some progress. That is just the way I approach these games. So if you're into that, but you don't want to physically smash your face into a brick wall, buy Elden Ring. You won't be disappointed. It is fucking grim. The one thing I will say that is maybe as new player friendly of any of these Souls-like games are ever going to be is the old formula for like the original Dark Souls games. Typically was you'd go to dungeon A, B and C, and you go through dungeon A, You hit a boss in Dungeon B, and you can't beat that boss. You're stuck on that fucking boss. And you've just got to keep trying and failing and dying, trying and failing and dying, and probably farther out causing some arguments with your loved ones, getting kicked out of your house, breaking keyboards, causing shit, probably going down a path of drugs and alcohol to cope with your mental illness that fighting the same thing 15 hours a day causes. And then eventually you'll beat it, and then you have to rinse and repeat that 35,000 times, and then eventually you beat the game. Well done, you. Very well done. One slight difference with Elden Ring is, yes, there are dungeons, certainly, and they have end bosses, like end dungeon bosses at the end of the dungeon. However, what you're about to see here, this is the very first enemy you see in the game coming up on the screen, and you exit like the training area that tells you the basics, and you see this massive dude on a horse. It looks badass as fuck, and it's a massive open area, and you can fight him, as I'm about to attempt, and you see how that goes. It doesn't work. Now again, like the boss that's meant to kill you in the tutorial, you can totally, I've seen people, you can totally kill this guy now. It's totally possible. You get a big ass sword, it's cool as fuck, you get a big pat on the back, and I'm sure your fucking mum and dad will be mega chuffed with you and be really proud. But I ended up giving up on him. I fought him. I only put a few deaths in the video, but I think I fought him for a total of 3 hours. Right, 3 hours. 3 hours when I first downloaded the game, and it was just a cycle of damage him, die, damage him, die, damage him a bit, die, die instantly, get him down to a quarter health, and die and die and die. However, bosses such as this guy that are in the big, more open areas of the game, you don't have to fight. If you come against something, or even a dungeon, you don't have to go through, there's no, like the dungeon I went to, I'm pretty sure there's multiple dungeons in an area, so if you come into, use this guy as an example here, and you'll try fighting him, and you'll get your fucking skull smashed into the floor repeatedly, you can just leave him. You don't have to stand there and infuriate. So for the new players, you don't have to go A, B, get stuck for 3 weeks and then get to C. You can try this for as many times as you want. Hell, if you're good, you'll beat him. Like I say, they're not impossible. That's the thing. There's nothing in this game. You can completely do this game in any order you want, pretty much, if you're good enough at it. But again, when you're sick of getting your skull pummeled into the floor for a guy and a half, you can mix it up and go and get your skull pummeled into the floor by another boss for a few hours. And do it that way. But all joking aside, you can easily, you don't have to be stuck. You can fuck off, go through a dungeon, level up a little bit, even find some like lower level enemies to practice your parrying on, or to maybe try and get a new weapon, or upgrade your current weapons, new spells, or get that extra level in your health, whatever you need to do to be able to beat the boss that you're stuck on. So that's as new player friendly, I think, as any of this genre of game is ever going to get. I don't think any Souls-like game, doing air quotations as I say that, is ever really genuinely going to be new player friendly. The only way you'll ever get anywhere in these games is to sit down and just grind and die and die and die a bit and die a bit more and break your keyboard and die a bit more and then kill a boss and then just rinse that cycle and you'll get it down. Now, they're fair. Every boss has, like most games with bosses, they have attack patterns where you can dodge, parry, block certain things. You have different ways of approaching them. You can skip them like I did here. I just cut away now. I couldn't beat him. I just went round the side of him, fucked him off, didn't bother. You have traders. This is the first trader I met. You can buy certain things off. You've got all the crafting. You've got the gathering of materials, killing animals, crafting stuff, buying new weapons, selling to him. And you can get, if you're stuck on a boss as well, forgot to mention this a minute ago, they have these little, near each boss area, they have like a little statue that you go up to activate, and you can use this little ability, like an item in your inventory, that makes what's called a summoning pool. And basically, that can allow cooperative, and it can have what's called adversary gameplay, but it can have cooperative gameplay in it. So you get to a marker that's normally just outside the final boss room of a dungeon, or there was one, I didn't show it on these clips, but there was one just before that guy I tried killing on the arse, and this will put you into a co-op mode with up to two other people, so you can have 3 of you fighting a boss. However, I've never successfully killed a boss doing this, because the downside is, if you die, you get kicked out of that session and you go back to your own world. So you get 1 life, you don't keep respawning with the same people, then, which you will do. Or if the host of the person, it'll say you joined such a body's lobby, if they die, you fail and you get sent back to your single player world. So it's a little bit infuriating to try and do it that way. It can be useful, like I say, it's 3 people against a boss, it can be good, but it's pot luck who you're going to get put in with. And I've noticed, I don't know if there's a way to do it for certain bosses, like there's a dungeon coming up later on, and I did a summoning pool outside the boss room for that dungeon, and I got dragged back to the prick on the horse about 7 times, and it was just infuriating, because I couldn't be arsed dealing with him. But it's an option. It's another new feature that new players might like to help get them through, and get them to maybe understand a bit more of the basics. And there are some characters, I know there's all your classes like your healers. I don't know if the paladins on this have a spell that will heal other players. I'm not sure if that's incorporated, because they're not, although it is a multiplayer game, it's not really meant to be like a massive multiplayer game. So I'm not sure if there are skills, but I'm sure there must be. So that could be an option. And if you don't want that, go in your settings, you can turn all this matchmaking crap off. That can completely get rid of. I do genuinely think this game is best experienced on your own. I did a few multiplayer bits, didn't really enjoy it, and I personally get the most out of this type of game doing it solo and grinding and getting that sense of achievement for dedicating 3 weeks of your life to killing a single guy in a video game, which when you say out loud kind of sounds depressing, doesn't it? But that's what I spend my time doing. So yeah, now I've not encountered this yet because I've turned me online play off, to be fair, like I just said, but there's also an adversary mode, which I don't know why anyone would want this in a game, because to me, you've got Elden Ring, you know it's going to be a hard game, you're in it for the, I want to kill this boss, I'm going to grind. Adversary mode, from what I understand of it, from never ever used it, lets another player join in where you are to kill you. Now, I don't understand why you would want that bullshit to ever fucking be a thing. I can't imagine anything worse than spending 3 hours of my life trying to kill a fucking goblin, and then you finally get there and little fucking Timmy Turner pops up as a bad guy, stabs you in the back. Fuck that. That's not my cup of tea. But if you're an absolute masochist, that option is there for you. So this game really does have you covered for every single possibility of what you want. So this is a multiplayer, as you can see, this is, to go slightly back, this is a multiplayer boss fight we did against this giant demon thing. So as you will see, I think you can fight it, there's 3 of you, all do damage, and it is useful because it doesn't always attack you, and you can teamwork a bit, and like one of them will move in, give it a bit of an attack, get his attention, you can move in, stab it a bit, and it can be fun. But I've never successfully killed a boss, as I said, 3 people, it's just not a thing. But there is an option in the menu settings for, you can make like a group code, so I think that's designed to like just play with your friends or people that have that code. So that's good. That would be a lot better, to be fair. But not a lot of my friends have got this game because not a lot of my friends want to hate themselves any more than they already do, so they've not bothered, which is fair enough. I completely get it. But again, a couple of your friends, maybe there's 2 of you, like, oh, I might get it, try it, and you can do the main boss fights together. You can pick different classes that sort of work well together, so you're not both doing the same thing, and you can probably have a really good time, or as good a time as you can ever have on a game like this, because you will grind and play hours and hours of this game, and then you will be questioning why you've done it, and you will definitely hate yourself, and you will come out with some psychological damage. This game is fucking brilliant, as I've said, but it is brilliant because it's awful. It is absolutely unrelenting, but that is the fun of it. The real point of any of these types of games is that sense of achievement. You can all remember being a kid and beating a boss, and that was and there's not a lot of games now that do that. You go on your Call of Duties and you get little fucking 12-year-old Timmys running around with fucking shotguns and killing you, and it gets annoying. Most games are story driven, and you get the difficulty sliders, and you can just get that perfect thing. This isn't. The enjoyment on this game is the harsh difficulty, and it is brutally harsh. And if you've never played a Dark Souls game before, it will fucking hurt to learn. But the sense of achievement, even in little tiny things that you do, will be worth it. That is the reason of playing these games. There's a lot of things it doesn't tell you. Like, I played, probably shouldn't say this on fucking record, but I played, like I say, 12 hours of this game. I found out after 11 hours that you could sprint. That's the type, it doesn't tell you shit. I didn't know you could sprint. Which to sprint, by the way, I'm using a PS4 controller, the circle button, which is dodge, if you hold that down while you're moving, your guy will start sprinting. That's how you do that. So that's a thing to bear in mind. There's a bit in one of this dungeon leading up to this This dungeon leading up to this bit here was full of fire, going down a little tunnel, and you had to try and fucking run through it. Now, if I knew I could sprint, I could have sprinted to the end and not took damage. I had to brute force my way and die. I died about 15 times just running into a fucking wall of flames repeatedly because I didn't know you could sprint. And yes, I'm a fucking idiot. And yes, you're probably going to know you could sprint. Obviously, you could fucking sprint. Right? It doesn't tell you that game. There's no fucking tutorial. You don't have any fucking buttons coming up. I didn't know what you could do. I didn't even know how to fucking heal for 3 hours. I was trying to fight a boss that you're not meant to fight at the start of the game with equipment that couldn't hurt a fucking dragonfly without knowing I could heal. So, bear that in mind. It's probably worth Googling. I'm a fucking retard. I play these games. I don't do any research. I don't look at the best class. I don't look at the controls. I just go, thud. That's not the way to play the game. So, bear that in mind. If you're debating it, do a quick Google, have a look at some classes, the playstyle you want to use, and little tips, like I say, you can two-hand the katana on the samurai, don't tell you that, the sprinting, the dodging, just little stupid things, and all those, if you can get through this very steep learning curve, and I mean steep learning curve, you will enjoy it. It is fun. I've spent 12 hours in the game, I've killed maybe 2 or 3 bosses, and made not a lot of progress. But I like that. That's a sense of achievement I get that I don't get out of a lot of other games. So for me, it's worth it. For me, it's Game of the Year. But just be aware if you're not familiar with playing the Dark Souls type games, the combat system takes a lot to get used to. The difficulty takes a hell of a lot to get used to. It's a brutal game. It is a fucking fun game though. I would, if you're debating, if you're thinking should I get it, shouldn't I get it, try it. Worst case scenario, you can play it for 2 hours on Steam in the first however long, and you can get a refund if you don't like it. Just try the game. You will not be disappointed. It's got 10 out of 10 game reviews pretty much across the board for that reason. So, that's my 2 cents on the topic. I'm not an expert gamer, as I said. I'm a fucking idiot on the internet who just plays games blind. I'm no good at them. I've never been really good at any video games. But it's fun. It's enjoyable. It is fucking fantastic. It's a brilliant RPG. There's so much in-depth character customization, skills and different classes and sets of armor and equipment and different ways you can use your weapons and different weapon combinations you can try in the open world map, and spells and horses and bosses and treasure and hidden bosses and hidden loot and collectibles and traders. It is got everything you look for in an RPG. As long as you can get your head round the difficulty, you will fucking love this game. That is just my opinion. I am just an idiot on the internet. I am not brilliant at these games, so take it with a pinch of salt. But if you're thinking about it, try it. So, I appreciate you listening to me ramble for this long. I know it's been a bit of a long one and it's just been me ranting, but that's my 2 cents on the game. It is going to be Game of the Year by far. I highly recommend you getting it. So with that, I will hopefully see you on the battlefield. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.